Welcome, Solara here. I hope you guys are doing well tonight. I am feeling this lunar energy as the Sun, Mercury, and Venus move through Cancer, and so I'm doing a late night reading. I haven't done these in a while, mainly because I've really been very, very fastidious when it comes to looking after my health and my sleep schedule. But in the past few days, I've just been drawn more to staying up a little bit later at times. So I'm kind of honoring that without letting it get too out of hand. I'm working with one of my decks I made. I just want to tune into the energies and see what's going on. I hope you guys are doing well. I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you who showed up and showed out to my group sessions this past weekend. It was a beautiful time. It's always lovely seeing familiar faces and meeting newer ones. So thank you guys for all the ways that you support me, and thank you for all the hard work you guys do to heal yourselves too. I have 2 more sessions occurring this weekend. I have my Road Back to Wholeness, which is a very intimate small group session, only 7 spaces available for that. That will be this Saturday, the 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. London time. And then on Sunday I decided instead of the monthly tarot astrology, I would do another one of those group check-in sessions because it was just such a beautiful time last Saturday. And this time, because I still want to honor the tarot astrology theme, I'm also, you don't have to just have a card pulled if you're looking for personal guidance. I'm also open to channeling people's moon sign energy using, my own method of tarot astrology, if that's something you want to look at, because we're about to get into this tonight. Whenever we are going through major transits in the sign of Cancer, we are dealing with lunar energies, right? But we are dealing with false matrix contracts. We are dealing with maternal and ancestral contracts. We are dealing with all of the things that have bound us subconsciously because we were either unaware of things that were happening in our fields, or because we had to learn how to survive, and so we turned off certain mechanisms within ourselves. And some of those mechanisms we turned off are part of, very interconnected to our divine gifts and our ability to even materialize abundance on this earth plane. It has very much to do with the clearance of our emotional fields and our emotional bodies. Please understand and overstand that the reason the false matrix had to have us in trauma cycles, it was a very complex in its structure. It wasn't just to feed their false grid's fear. It's because literally when they bind you in trauma, they fragment you, and you cannot access all parts of yourself and remembrance of who you are to fully reconnect to your cosmological truth on earth and show up here in your divine design. And all of this is being pulled down very rapidly. And through Cancer season, through these major transits of not only the Sun moving through Cancer, but also through Mercury and Venus moving through Cancer, while we have the nodes also in cardinal energy. There's a lot that's going on this Cancer season, and every Cancer season is very, very intense, but this one especially so. Not to mention that we kicked off the season with a full moon in Capricorn, and we're closing out the season with another full moon in Capricorn. So we have double full moons in Capricorn, right? We have the new moon in Cancer happening next Friday, July the 5th. And then we don't have a full moon in Cancer this year. So the last full moon of 2023 was the full moon in Cancer, right? So the full moon in Cancer is interesting because sometimes it occurs at the beginning of a year or the end of a year. Sometimes we have a situation kind of similar to what we're going through with the moons in Capricorn, where we have book-ending full moons, meaning that we'll have a full moon at the beginning of the year, and then we'll have a full moon closing out the year. Now, that happened in 2020. So in 2020, we opened up the year with a full moon in Cancer, very, very intense one. I don't know if you all remember. And then we had a really huge eclipse season right in the center of Cancer season, not to mention the nodes were still in Cancer and Capricorn, the North Node was in Cancer and Capricorn. And then we closed out 2020 with another full moon in Cancer. This year we have the absence of any full moons in Cancer in 2024. So, very interesting energy we're dealing with here. And y'all know when we're dealing with that Cancer Capricorn axis, we're dealing with the frequential truth that establishes us as individuals emotionally, and then also establishes a collective story materially. So that Cancer Capricorn axis is very, very important for the establishment of the emotional foundations on the earth that bring forth the frequential equilibrium we need in order to create and to come back into our proper divine design and cosmological truth. And all of the cardinal energies deal with this issue of bringing forth balance and equilibrium, which is why they all fall on those solstice and what's it called, equinox lines. Okay, so I'm going to take a moment to welcome you. I haven't welcomed you guys if you're visiting for the first time. I hope that, you know, you're able to get some value from what it is I have to share. I'm not for everyone. I really am not. So if you don't like me, that's fine. Keep it moving. That's okay. I wish you well on your journey. I hope you find the person who you are aligned with in all ways, you know, not just informationally, but also vibrationally. Yes, so let's get into this because I don't want to stay here too long, even though I am doing a late night reading. Let's see what's coming out. Remote viewing and psychic surveillance. Let's continue to go. Thank you. Woo. Interesting. More information on this remote. Yep, this came out before. In the very beginning, before I put the camera on, this came out. Person is manifesting in your energy consciously. This means someone is purposely trying to connect with you. We're going to find out what that has to, what that actually means, if it's a good or a bad thing. In all frankness, I think anytime someone is purposely trying to manifest another person, it's not a positive thing from my perspective, but we'll see. We'll see. Timeline jumping due to divine union or contracts. Okay, so I've spoken about this before in the past. Water and stagnancy, magic. I've spoken about this in the past. When we come into the Capricorn full moon, when we enter into Cancer season, when we enter into Capricorn energy, any Capricorn transit, it has to do with material contracts. It has to do with divine contracts being made real materially. Okay, now whether those, it doesn't have to always just be divine contracts, but it does speak very specifically of material contracts, and it is the way through which we are able to materialize our divine contracts on the earth planes. Okay, so what we have here, remote viewing and psychic surveillance, timeline jumping due to divine unions or contracts, person is manifesting in your energy consciously. We have water and stagnancy, magic. When I was going through some other cards before I got in here, it did say, one of the cards that flew out was, it's time to work with more nature spirits. For some of you, you're going to want to work more with the element of water. Clearing mental energies. There's a lot of whispering spirits. What I mean by that are these energies that try to they're very subtle in their execution and their delivery, but they're enough to kind of try to switch your mental awareness. And the whole point when you're dealing with like the Gemini Cancer energy, because we are kind of teetering in both of those signs right now, because astrologically speaking, the sun is in Cancer, but astronomically speaking, true astrology, the sun is still in Gemini. And so that Gemini Cancer energy is still dealing with the tricks of the mind. But when you're like this time of the year, it's the tricks and the subtleties of the mind that are designed to take you under emotionally, or designed to blind you and take you into old timelines. The thing about Cancer season, Cancer energy is very powerful, and this isn't just Cancer, this is all the water signs. They're very powerful to help you travel and to timeline jump, because the way that you maneuver and you birth new things, including new timelines, the way you travel is by the waters. Everything is connected. Realms are interconnected, dimensions are interconnected through water. Everything is connected and separated by the waters. So this is why when you are quote unquote manifesting something, it's not enough to just think about it. You have to connect it with the emotion, and you need to sustain that emotion and that feeling that you want to have when you actually are receiving the thing that you are wanting to come into your reality. It's because the emotion is what brings forth the material artifact, the materialization of the desire you have. It's through the holding of the emotion, not just the thought. Okay, so it's through the emotions that we're able to timeline jump and manifest very rapidly. So through Cancer, through Scorpio, through Pisces. This is why those of you who have who might have very a lot of water energy in your chart, whether it's you have a lot of Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces energy, or a lot of 4th house, 8th house, and 12th house energy. And, or it can even, with tarot astrology, I don't only look at the signs and the houses, but even the astrology, right? Even the degrees, I mean. So that would be the 4th. If you have an abundance of 4 degree, 8 degree, 12 degree energy, or 16 degree, 20 degree, 24 degree energy, and 28 degree energy. Those are all astrological degrees that are connected to the water signs, so Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio. So this is the beautiful thing of, tarot astrology, is that you can look at it from every angle. You can find the layers of the story. But the point is that you create your reality through the waters. Okay, so a lot of you, a lot of us who are very emotionally rich, emotionally vast, meaning that we're highly empathic. Those of you who have the ability, those of us who have the ability to be able to feel very intensely, to be able to connect with other people emotionally, and not only people, but connect with all things emotionally. Those of us who are able to use our emotions to experience things internally that many beings can't do. And a lot of you were doing this and you weren't even aware that it was something that was very unique in your experience, right? That you could feel so intensely, right? That gift of feeling so intensely, it was a curse in the false matrix, because the false matrix was designed to have you programmed into lack. And beings who are very emotionally vast, we're not lacking in anything. If anything, we have too much of what it is that they wanted to take from us, which is why they had to constantly diminish us and get us into these lack states so they could energy harvest. Now, you beings who are highly connected to that water energy, you're the ones who are helping us to remember what it is to flow once more, 2344 my clock, flow once more into the gentleness and the emotional integrity that's required to bring back to life the primordial truth and the divine design that was originally set here for us on the earth planes. Those of you who are very emotionally vast are creators. You are able to birth a lot. This is where the true wealth of the true earth comes from, is your ability to be able to create and to birth a lot. This is why in the false matrix they wanted you waterlogged and blocked. And this is what I'm getting with this water and stagnancy magic, is that for many of you, for as long as you're not succumbing to the tricks, a lot of this stuff is wanting to break. This stagnancy magic, this water magic, a lot of it has been enacted on you through the Cancer Capricorn axis. I've talked about this before. Every time the North Node is in Cancer, there are major world events designed to fuck with us emotionally, to take us into collective fear. So in 2020, when the North Node was in Cancer, we had the big ass lockdown. In 2001, we had the Twin Towers. And then we had the whole conspiracy, with the terrorism and the name that they use for that group, which is, connected to the Egyptian goddess, which is, the name that is emblematic of the Divine Mother principle in the Kemetic, tradition, right? So the whole point of that was to get your psyche to align yourself with that name Isis, with it being something to do with terror. It was all emotional programming, psychological fuckery is really what it comes down to. And they will always enact that through the Cancer Capricorn axis, especially and specifically, because not only is Cancer very connected to the foundational energies that allow you to travel emotionally to begin with anyway, but Cancer energy is also what connects you to the grids. Cancer energy is what reconnects us to the dragon lines. It's what connects us to the dragon heart energy. And that dragon heart energy is then actualized through Leo. Be very aware of your dreams in this time. One thing that you might notice in Cancer season is you will have a lot of, there's a few different themes that might come up in your dreams. For one thing, the theme of houses, right? The theme of a home. Pay attention to how home bases show up in your dreams, whether they're homes that are familiar, homes that you visited before, homes that you're aware of, like if they belong to other beings, or buildings within a dream that in the dream is presenting itself to you as a home. This is very much showing you, can be showing you a few things. It can be showing you the state of your own energy field presently. It could be showing you your vulnerabilities when it comes to security, and it could be showing you infiltrations in that energy, or who's trying to control your sense of security and stability. So pay attention to your dreams, and if you're showing up in houses and how that makes you feel, right? Another thing you might want to, focus on in a dream is if you are in vehicles that transport you. So whether you're on a train, or you're on a bus, or you're in an airplane, or you're on a ship, or you're in a car. Pay attention to what is happening. Pay attention to the storyline that's going on around your being in that vehicle, and who is driving, and how are you feeling in that position. Are you able to get to where you're going? Are you a willing participant in the travel plans, or are you just kind of out there and you don't know what you're doing, or you actually need to get somewhere and you're bound on a vehicle in some way, shape, or form? That again is going to show you timeline fuckery, and it's also going to show you where these energies are still trying to control your ability to move forward in accordance with where you want to go. Remember also, Cancer energy in the tarot is connected to the Chariot And the Chariot is about, you know, on a very mundane level, it's about your ability to move forward, right? And there's a reason why that is the card of Cancer, right? Because in order to move forward in the Chariot, you have to also balance your shadow and your light aspects. They must be in one accord in order for the Chariot to move forward in the right direction. Otherwise, what happens is you have the Sphinxes going in opposite directions. You need to direct them on the right path, and you can only do that by bringing into alignment both your shadow and your light, right? So that's the Chariot card, but the Chariot card is also connected to like force and to ego and to personal will and perseverance and courage and pushing past certain things. And these are traits that we don't always first think of when we think about Cancers and Cancerian energy. We're always thinking about Cancer and home, Cancer and the mother, Cancer and ancestral energies, Cancer and, you know, in the shadow aspect, domestic violence, racial tension. All of these things connect us to Cancerian energy, but so does the resilience to tune into our ability to rise above by utilizing the power of our emotions and the realization of who we are and how we use our emotions to maneuver us and to push us forward into where it is we actually want to go, into the right direction, which is why the Chariot is also deeply connected to your light body. It is through the Cancerian energy that we begin to learn how to drive our light bodies. Your light body, your energy field, your ability to travel, like I said at the beginning, is based upon your ability to utilize the power of your emotions to bring them under submission and under your authority in order to direct you where you want to go. The false matrix did everything that it could, especially with you very emotionally rich beings, to have you off kilter, out of balance, and to constantly have you feeling like your emotions were too much, but also feeling just out of sorts, right? Because when you were feeling that way, that's how you can be easily energy harvested. And some of you might be noticing that there are beings right now, whether they're doing it consciously or not, it doesn't matter, right? Because the entities, the false matrix entities, they're still connected to and they're still programmed by, are still at work through them. Right? So there are beings right now who are trying to move you in that way, to make you unstable, to destabilize you, but especially emotionally, sometimes very subtly, but in ways that move you emotionally. And for a lot of you, the only beings that have that ability to move you emotionally in subtle and covert ways are the ones who've had access to your heart, are the ones who've had access to your emotions, are the ones who've been close to you, are your family. That's Cancerian energy, right? So be aware. And these energies don't have to be in your face. They don't have to be beings who are still in your physical reality, because when they can't get to you physically, they'll come to you in the dream space. So be very, very conscious of where and how these stories are showing up. And I say this to you not to put you in fear, because like I said before, through this gateway, a lot of this stuff is dissolving anyway. But the more that you are able to see it, the more that you are able to take authority over it, the better off you're going to be, and the better off you're going to feel. And that's what's really important, is that this season, this Cancer season, is not about you succumbing to the fear of being pulled back. It's about you being able to see all the tactics and rising above and reclaiming that place of feeling secure over yourself. It's about taking back a lot of what has been lost through the timeline fuckery. Okay, so what came out here is Mercurial Magic. Mercurial Magic. Communication, intelligence, spiritual guidance, fast-moving expression of truth, learning and teaching, chance, happenings, and encounters, divine communication. Well, we already know that Mercury is moving through Cancer presently also. So again, Mercury has gone ahead of the Sun in Cancer, so it's moving through the second decan of Cancer already with Venus, and the Sun is still moving through the first decan of Cancer, and so therefore Mercury is helping us to connect with the stories and the information that we need at this time in order to make sense of a lot of things that have been deeply buried within our own, seabeds or the deep unconscious and subconscious. And some of these things, in the spirit of the year that we're dealing with, 2024, we're dealing with the closing out of what it was that birthed the false matrix to begin with through 2024. And in order to do that, we must go into the deepest of, we must go to the seabed, into the foundational energies upon which the structures of the false matrix were allowed to grow. And we must first do that within ourselves. So, I say all of that because I lost what, Mercury in Cancer. A lot of the messaging that we're getting, although Cancer already helps us to really connect with the subconscious and to really go there, right? Mercury is giving us extra assistance to not only connect with the emotions, but the information we need to rise up again. Now, a lot of the ways we learned how to survive in the false matrix caused us to repress, suppress, and oppress our own emotional truths in order to survive, in order to be accepted, even if it was falsely. We did what we had to do, and so now we must confront those things that we've hidden and we've suppressed because of the need to survive in a world where it wasn't acceptable to be who we were in our fullness. And now we are birthing a world where it is okay. It's not only okay, it's necessary that you be who you are in your wholeness. And as such, those timelines, those stories, those beings that contributed to what it was that we had to repress and oppress and suppress, those are the things that are coming up right now for clearance, but also for our awareness, so that we can make a conscious decision to opt out, is really what it comes down to. So we have at the bottom here, we have a person is manifesting your energies, manifesting in your energy unconsciously. Okay, so we have both. And what this is just showing me is that there's just a lot going on in your energy right now. And what I mean by that is there are beings that are consciously trying to get you to do things in accordance with what it is that they might want. For like innocently for some of you, but for others of you, not so much. And then there are beings who are making those emotional connections to you also as things begin to clear and we become more clear to ourselves and we connect more with our own desires, and we are therefore able to connect with beings who are on the same wavelength as us. That's happening simultaneously also. So what that means is that we spent a lot of time in the false matrix aligning ourselves with desires that we were told were right for us and would make us happy. And through this ascension process, we've had to learn how to unfuck ourselves and unlearn all the programming so that we could, be reacquainted with who we are divinely and really begin to connect with and own our desires. Okay, so this has been a very big theme ever since the Sun moved into Cancer, but very specifically ever since Venus moved into Cancer. What is it that you actually desire? And I spoke about this, I think, in the last reading I did with you guys, or maybe it was for the full moon in Capricorn Tarot astrology, how it's so important right now for us to come to terms with our true divine desires, those things that we thought we couldn't have, those things we were told we weren't good enough to have, or those things that we thought we wanted that we never actually did. So For example, many of us were taught that our happiness would come when we found the right person and we get married and we settle down, but that wasn't actually your path. And the truth of the matter is that maybe later on in life, maybe next week, you will meet and have the divine romance of this lifetime. It's absolutely possible. But until I came back into the fullness of alignment with myself and my truth, that wasn't supposed to be part of our purpose. And every time we tried to deviate and make that a part of our path, because that's what we thought we wanted, based upon programming and wounding, every time we broke our own hearts. We continually broke our own hearts. We broke our own hearts by pursuing things. We broke our own hearts by pursuing things that weren't in alignment with our truth. We broke our own hearts by staying in situations past the expiration. We broke our own hearts by allowing beings who had no real value for who we are to speak into our realities and to dictate who it is that we should be in order to falsely appease them. We broke our own hearts in a myriad of ways. And this Cancer season is about 0000 on my clock. This Cancer season is about coming back into alignment with the true desires of our higher hearts, so that we're no longer breaking our hearts, running after and pursuing things that we thought we wanted but we didn't want, or not going after the things that are our birthrights because we bought the lie about our own lack, etc. I'm going to go into the Moonology Oracle. Full moon in Cancer. A personal issue reaches resolution. Give me a second here. Let me just pull up. The first full moon of 2025 is going to be in Cancer. So let me see what is the what is going to be the let me see the degrees, etc. for this full moon in Cancer in 2025. Why is my mouse not working? First, let's see what the full moon in Cancer in 2023 was on December the 27th at 4 degrees. There might be something of significance for some of you around the last full moon in Cancer, which was December 27th. I remember that full moon being one where a lot of us were really just being called into rest. And this Cancer season is really, I'm feeling that a lot more also. I don't always feel that when the sun is in Cancer. I feel it more when the moon is transiting through Cancer every month. And then when we have, the full moon in Cancer, it's often a time where we're called to, to rest and to replenish and to dream. And this year, the sun in Cancer is feeling very, very much very similar in that regard too. So, interesting. So the next full moon in Cancer is going to be on January the 13th on a Monday. So that's, moon day, and it's going to be at 23 degrees, and 23 of course is a degree of Aquarius, so very interesting. Something's being settled. It feels like there are a lot of okay, so I've spoken about this before, right? About how the contracts of the false matrix, family, quantum entanglement agendas. Let me just, we have at the bottom, sorry, the full moon in Aquarius, show the world the real you. It's interesting because I just said that Aquarian degree, right? I'll come back to that though. In 2022, the full moon in Capricorn heralded the ending of karmic family, karmic contracts that were very, very rooted in the bloodline systems of the false matrix that many of us were bound into as divine beings in a myriad of ways. And I don't want to get into that too much, but a lot of what we've been taught when it comes to ancestry is not entirely accurate. Your bloodline ancestry is of significance, but it's not what determines who you are on any plane except this one. Okay, so the truth of the matter is your galactic ancestry trumps everything. Okay, so a lot of us were placed in certain bloodlines for very, very specific purposes, okay, especially through this ascension. You could kind of say that you were visiting into those bloodlines, because as we move out of the old world and into the new earth, there are new foundational legacies that are being founded upon, and the way that we are beginning these foundations run deeper than the cords that attached us to bloodlines in the false matrix, because again, your galactic legacy, your galactic ancestry trumps the bloodline that you were born into, or the bloodlines you've been connected to across many incarnations while you've been incarnating and reincarnating through the false matrixes, fake timelines since the previous golden age. That's all I want to say on that. In 2022, a lot of those agreements where you had taken on the assignment to come into these family lines in order to help them, because of who you are frequentially, to connect with what it is they needed as a collective to raise the consciousness of their own bloodline in order to to give every being the opportunity to be liberated, to go forward into the new earth, right? Those contracts, irregardless as to how beings chose to chose to utilize your power in their family lines, those contracts came to a close. Now, what I mean by that is that they had the choice to help you rise into your divinity and for you to do the same for them, or to try to utilize the power of your emotional wealth and connections, which will always be a reflection of your galactic ancestry and your frequential abilities, is your emotional quotient and your ability to hold broader emotions and to connect more with beings emotionally, and to be not just sympathetic but truly empathic, sometimes even taking on other beings' pain and feeling it because that's how much you flow, is really what it comes down to. Either they helped you to rise into that in beauty, which for most of you that wasn't the case, or they used the energy harvesting tactics of the false matrix to traumatize you in order to I'm so lost for words right now tonight, I'm sorry, in order to continually get something, material out of the process of harvesting or traumatizing, abusing, through ritual, all manner of ways, which I've gone into so much to the point where I don't really want to repeat it at this point. But in 2022, those contracts came to a close in the invisible planes, right? So when something as above, so below, when something begins to be nullified and voided in the higher planes, then everything has to be played out in order to make that actualized materially. Furthermore, it cannot be actualized materially if you are still consenting to the original terms of agreement of the contract that had you bound to begin with. Which is why in 2022, the work really began, the exposure really began, so you could begin to consciously connect with the true nature of the stories and the beings that have been seeking to bind you, etc. In 2022, that information really started to come to the light a lot more, so that you would be able to use the power of your waters, your water wealth, your intuition, to be able to flow and to see the truth of what was lurking beneath the material story, and that was keeping you constantly in these cycles. Because energy don't lie, okay? A person can smile in your face all fucking day, okay? They can say the right thing to you, but if every time you come into their presence, everything falls apart, trust the manifestation of them being in your life before you trust what it is they're saying with their words to you. And sometimes it's not even a conscious thing. But the point is, we were being reconnected and helped to once again see how all things lurking beneath the surface of what is happening materially, those invisible things that are happening, are actually of more substance than what it is that we can see, taste, touch, feel, hear, connect to with our material senses. The material makes up maybe, I don't know, anywhere from 7 to 10% of reality. The building blocks of your material reality is like 90+% invisible. So if that's the case, we really should be tuning more into the invisible building blocks that eventually birth what it is that we see and experience physically and viscerally, but is only really maybe 7 to 10% of reality, right? So this double full moon in Capricorn is closing out a lot of the drama that we've been going through in the clearing of these energies on the mental and the emotional planes since those contracts were nullified and voided in the spirit. So when those contracts were nullified and voided in the spirit in 2022, then we had to clear our minds and our hearts, both our mental and our emotional bodies, of everything that had us in agreement with the original contracts. And understand and overstand, that was almost everything. In every way, we were more in alignment with those contracts than we were with ourselves. So for those of you who've been doing all of the work since then, the deep work, the deep shadow work of not only becoming aware of the stories of what has been happening with these beings, karmic family members, whoever it was, the entities that were running them, which are all connected to every single system that runs the false matrix, which is why they needed these beings getting involved with the banks, the financial institutions, the orders, the covens, the societies that ran the shit. For those of you who've been doing the deep internal work, the shadow work, the healing work that was necessary for you to reacclimate yourself with your truth and to therefore decimate the lies in your mental and your emotional fields, then what is happening now is you're getting safe passage all the way out now materially. So in other words, from the full moon in Capricorn at the end of Cancer season, which I think is happening on July the 21st at 29 degrees, which is a degree of Leo, right as the sun enters into Leo. So we have the sun in Cancer at 29 degrees, while the moon is at her fullness at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Again, 29 is a degree of Leo. And just as the sun and the moon reach the end of Cancer, just as the sun reaches the end of Cancer and the moon reaches her fullness, we enter into Leo. The sun enters into Leo and we enter into Leo season. Okay, and this is important because Leo season this year is about rising up again, following, doing all of that difficult work of reclaiming what was lost at the inception point of the false matrix, which was also the end of the previous golden age, which was the age of Leo. So Leo season this year is really about the dawning of the golden age within us again, because we've done the work of clearing out this year especially those foundational energies, those baseline energies upon which the false matrix was allowed to be manifested in, by, and through us. And so I say that because this full moon in Capricorn is going to be very, very big for shifting material realities of those who've done the work on the previous planes. Okay, so many of you, for example, found that even though, and this is to be expected, even though those contracts in 2022 were nullified, they were closed out, your life, when it came to dealing with those energies, became even more frantic. But what was actually happening is that the attacks were not picking up. Your life was not becoming more frantic. It's just that those underlying energies that for so long had been invisibly causing chaos now were known to you. So it's one thing, for example, if you have someone who's in your house, someone's broken into your house, and you're asleep and you don't know that there's no one in your house, there's no fear because you're not aware. You don't have any awareness that there's someone creeping around in your house. Now, the minute you start to hear someone and you know that they're in your house, that fear becomes real. But the truth of the matter is, from a safety perspective, you're knowing that person is in your house versus you're not knowing, it doesn't shift anything. Your life is still in danger. But now you have the realization that your life is in danger versus when you didn't before, which some would argue is more dangerous, right? So what you were dealing with before was less pronounced because you didn't know there was a robber in your house. And in 2022, those beings that were running around, fucking around in your energy, it couldn't be hidden anymore. And that raised the alarm and it raised the fear. And so a lot of what we felt was like heavy attacks. They were, but I want to specify that they felt heavy, not because you haven't been living through that the whole time, but now because you're consciously aware of what is going on. You're living through it. It's almost like what my guides are showing me now. It's like a person who's on the operating table. Anesthesia versus no anesthesia. Now you're going through that shit without anesthesia because it's time for you to overcome it. It's time for you to see. It's time for you first and foremost to see what is actually happening, what energies have actually been running the show in your life. But it's also time for you to rise above. It's also time for you to rise above those energies, right? It's time for you to recognize that even though these energies have been running the show, they were only able to run the show and make you, and to run your life because you weren't aware. And not only were you unaware, but you also didn't know your power. And so those energies were there to help you disengage from all of those stories and illusions that had allowed them to remain invisibly in your fields to begin with. Right? So the past 2 years have been about that, have been about getting rid of those energies and losing our fear around these energies, and recognizing that when something walks into our fields, there's nothing more powerful than your own command over who you are. And when something tries to trespass into your territory, they're trespassing into your territory, which means that you have authority over that domain. But it was time for us to remember that, to recall that, to reconnect with the ability to utilize the power of our authority over ourselves to clear out that fuckery. So through this full moon, this double full moon in Capricorn, there's a lot that's coming into completion that in the past 2 years has caused a lot of back and forth energies, a lot of instability, a lot of stop-start in the material. You feel you're going forward materially only for something to happen again and to be pulled back. You feel like you're overcoming an attack and then another one of the same thing comes in, because the truth of the matter is every single attack is only going to affect you in the areas where you still have things that you need to clear and shift. That's what they're here for. Every attack is here to show you where you have vulnerability and you're still open to these energies wanting to trespass. That's all they're showing you at this point. Right? So that energy is wanting now to leave. So in other words, through this full moon in Capricorn occurring at 29 degrees, and as the sun moves into Leo the very next day, we are now establishing the new golden age materially. This is why Leo season is so big this year. That 8/8 portal is so big this year. Because we literally are going to begin to manifest materially what it is that we have been dancing with, very connected with intuitively, invisibly, dancing back and forth with it materially, learning again how to utilize the power of our thoughts and emotions to bring forth things that we want. And now the material alignment for that to flow is what is coming through. So between Leo season, so July 22nd, I think is when the sun is probably entering into Leo, because I think July 21st is the full moon in Capricorn at 29. So around the 22nd of July, all the way up until, was it the 13th of January? The 13th of January. Be prepared for very rapid movement in your material circumstances, especially when it comes to the things that had you bound because of the karmic fuckery. Okay? And that is, again, this isn't like a fairy tale, like waving of the wand and it's going to happen because it's time, 0022 on my clock, because, the sun is going into Leo. That's not how it works. It's going to happen in accordance with your ability to maintain the frequency that is necessary for you to pull these things in. But the point is, it's available to you. It's here where it wasn't before. The ability to stabilize your divine design here on the earth planes is becoming more and more, present, more and more possible. But it's up to you to align your frequency with that which pulls it in. In other words, if you're still courting fear more than you're courting, the faith and the hope and the connecting to your truth and your power, if you're still fucking around with you know, the shame and the guilt stories that are designed to pull you under and out of your true frequency, and you're living there too long in those states, instead of, you know, recognizing and realizing that you have to travel deep in order to come back up. And going deep means facing head on those guilt and those shaming stories and narratives, and finding out what is the true root of the energy, what is the true story beneath this. You know, beyond the ego and how we've been trained to be embarrassed or to reject certain aspects of ourselves. What is the true story? Because beneath the shame, beneath the guilt, is where your giftings and your power truly reside. It's why in the false matrix they wanted you running away from that. So, for example, if you were taught to be ashamed of the fact that you are a very playful being, okay, and it's made you, and this is just a random example, it's made you this person who's just super serious about responsibility and maturity and adulting and all this other bullshit, right? And I'm not saying those things aren't important, but everything must come into balance. And a lot of what we've been taught to do in terms of how we adult and how we act mature and how we act responsible is just us taking on these personas out of woundedness and pushing out another aspect of ourselves. And some beings who have taken on that persona to the point of self-destruction have done so because you are deeply connected to that childlike energy and innocence of play and pleasure that we actually need to birth this new world back into existence. That's what the true primordial wisdom and templates of the true earth are founded upon, our ability to connect with that childlike essence of play and dreaming and imagination. It's how we create. Recreation is how it's part of us being creators. And so for many of you who are connecting with that example, that part of you was snuffed out to make you a cog on the machine without you even realizing it. So, for example, if you have shame in taking a day off and going to the fucking playground, if that's what you want to do, or doing something else that your inner child is telling you to do, and you feel like, oh, I'm so above that, that's childish, and blah, 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 and I have responsibilities, etc., etc., well, you are missing out on a very important divine aspect of who you are, because you are pledging more allegiance to the persona in the false matrix that you were told made you more responsible or made you more mature and all this other stuff, right? So all of this, and every time you will feel the pull to do it, you will the way it will work is that you will other beings who are really in that energy of play are going to enter into your reality, whether it's physically, you know, your you know, the things that you scroll on the internet. You're going to start connecting with that energy more because it's a part of you that wants to come to life, and how you respond to that is going to determine a lot of things. So if you become curious, which is, curiosity is always reconnecting to, you know, childlike energy. If you become curious and you allow your curiosity to lead you to open up a door, then you might find yourself healing that aspect. But if you allow shame to become the barrier, like and projection, where you start to, you know, ridicule other beings who are more free, as being irresponsible and all those other things, right? What you're actually doing, or what another person is doing who's engaging in that, is they're actually just shutting the door on their divine truth. They're shaming, they're choosing to be stuck in the shame story. And behind the shame story, behind the shame wall that they don't want to go past, is where their divine treasure lies. I hope that makes sense. So interesting, we've got the new moon in Capricorn. Your hard work is paying off. So the new moon in Capricorn is going to be at the end of the year. Yeah. Monday, another Monday, December the 30th, 9 degrees. That's a degree of Virgo. That's liberation. Sounds about right. Okay, so it's already an hour in. I'm going to get going. So yeah, just be very aware that right now you have the ability to really timeline jump based upon where you're allowing your emotions to take you. Okay, so another thing I want to share with you before I go is when you have those dreams, if you have those dreams, where you are in a vehicle and someone else is riding that vehicle or driving that vehicle rather. When you wake up from that dream, you take back authority over your reality, and it will be done instantly. Okay, so not all of you, not all of us have that ability back to be in our dreams in a conscious way and drive our dreams the way we want them to drive. Some of us, like for me, for example, I still don't fully have that ability. I had it as a child. And I know that that's because of the only reason, okay, so when you are fully in alignment with who you are on all planes, you should be able to drive through your dreams and to, like direct the energy in the same way you direct your life consciously. Your dreams and the dream state belongs to you. But in the farther you get away from yourself, and the more you get buried under trauma specifically or emotional densities, it will always be emotional densities. And if not emotional densities and psychic fuckery, it will always have to do with water energy, which is emotional or psychic. The more you are, this is difficult energy to channel through right now in general. But anyway, the more you are underneath emotional densities, the more difficult it is to connect with your emotional body and to drive it with authority and autonomy. And this is exactly what the Chariot card is about also. Through Cancer season, through the clearing of that deep unconscious, subconscious stuff, as well as the psychic fuckery that has been designed to keep us underneath this very dense emotional energy to the point where we're not able to move with fluidity with our own emotions. Cancer season helps us to reclaim our emotional bodies. Okay, and when we reclaim our emotional bodies, we should be able to once again dream in the way we want to dream. There's no limits to when we dream. You can dream with other people. You can, arrange to meet people in dream state. There are so many things that you can do in dream that you have been cut off from because of the trauma and the psychic surveillance. That's why it came out, right? Remote viewing, psychic surveillance, psychic fuckery of the matrix, the false matrix and its programs, and all the beings who supported it by not healing back into their divine truth, and so therefore still being open channels for these entities to flow through them. So now it's time to first and foremost close down those channels within yourself where anything is using your emotions to try and flow through you. So that would have to do also with that card that came out before about beings consciously trying to manifest you. Nobody should be doing that. I'm just going to say it. It's never sat right with me because nobody should be consciously really trying to manifest anyone, because that actually begins to play with the other person's free will. They can very easily be attached or called in by you because of the energy that you're putting out, and they can think that the magnetism that is drawing them, that the magnetism that seemingly is pulling them towards you is natural and organic, when really it's being done by someone else. This is why love spells are a mess. We ain't supposed to be doing love spells on anyone but ourselves. Can I love me more? Can I adore me more? You know, that's the only one and love spells to open ourselves up to receive love, or, you know, to call in love with another being without specifying who that being is. So this is also speaking of like love spell fuckery. Could be active stuff that's happening right now, or it could even be things that have to fall apart because they already were put into motion before. You know, but that's what it really feels like. Also, it feels like a lot of the ways that we have been emotionally duped, spellcast, you know, bound to others by trauma, by, you know, fake family loyalty stories and all that other shit that had us emotionally invested in energies that actually had us not able to live sovereignly. The stories, the spells are becoming more obvious, meaning that beings who try to come into your reality, who you are not a frequential match for, it's beginning to show a lot more. Like, I'm going to close out here, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to close out. So I was out and about this morning. I went to spend some time with Mama River, and I'm walking back feeling really, you know, rejuvenated, having been in her presence. And I walked by this guy, and he's really cute, right? Really good looking guy. Quite young, right? Like maybe in his mid to late 20s, possibly a PT, right? He was in his fitness gear, really good looking guy, right? And he walks by me, and I look at him, and I can tell that by when I look at him, I'm kind of making him shy. I can tell that there is a level of, you know, like not overt flirtation or attraction, but it's still there. There's a connection. And so I walk past him, I smile at him, and I keep going, right? And as I'm walking away, I'm thinking, wow, you know, like back in the day, not even back in the day, maybe even a few months ago, if a guy like that and I had had that kind of exchange, you know, like viscerally, my body as a woman would have responded in a way where I felt the attraction. And as I walked away from him, I felt nothing. And I was laughing so hard at myself. I was like, I feel nothing for you. You're a beautiful, like, I feel no sexual attraction to you. You're a beautiful man. And once upon a time, when I wasn't in alignment with who I am, and I was still underneath the spells of the false matrix, where everything was about attraction based upon these lust programs and all that, I would have really, like, you know, turned my head to check you out again. And I walk by you today, and I can appreciate you in all of your fineness, because you are fine, but feel nothing about that. And I celebrated it, and then I heard a voice, and it I almost posted this on the community board, but then I was like, this could be misconstrued, so let me just keep this to myself, but I'll share it here. I heard a voice say to me that, what was it? It was really funny. My guides are really hilarious sometimes. Well, I'm really hilarious. It's really what it comes down to. It said an empress doesn't just allow any man to make her wet. An empress doesn't allow just any man to make her wet. Now, you can take that purely as being sexual, but it's deeper than that. Being wet is being primed for creation, being primed for not only the act of sex, but the act of creation and creativity. And divine feminine energy is here to birth a new earth and a new world. And there will be no more of us giving away our precious creative flow and energy to beings who are not in frequential alignment with us. And so for as long as we're not frequentially aligned, what we're going to create is going to be misaligned also. There's no more of that. And I'm saying this because through this window, the misalignments the things that you are not a frequential match for, where once upon a time you thought you might have been, or once upon a time it was your thing, or once upon a time you would have been emotionally influenced or manipulated based upon your programming or your wounding to believe that it was. It is no longer the case. Those emotional spells are breaking. And it can't happen soon enough, because now what that means is that as you walk around the world, you will not be manipulated or influenced anymore by things that are not a proper frequential match for you, for as long as you are doing the work of being true to yourself. That's all that it's ever come down to. When you are being true to yourself, you cannot be deceived. But with that being said, the false matrix was constructed in such a way that even if you were walking around being true to yourself, it wasn't fully possible to materialize that on the earth, because you were still dealing with systems and structures that at every turn had you living in illusions and lies. And now all of that is coming down. It can't exist anymore. What you're seeing right now, anywhere where you're seeing the illusions and lies, are just facades right now, and there's nothing behind the facade. Where once upon a time there were so many structures and beings and crews that supported the ongoing, growth of that facade, the ongoing anchoring in of that facade. There's nothing. It's like for some of these situations, they're so fake that all you have to do is like do that and the whole thing comes down. The whole lie reveals itself. And you're going to see that also with people. People can't lie to you anymore the way they used to. They can't. Your bullshit detector, your intuition, your connection to self won't allow your connection to self, your connection to source, your aligning now with your higher mind and your higher heart will no longer allow you to be duped by those who want to take you out of that. They will be revealed to you immediately, even more rapidly, and without you second guessing yourself anymore. We did a lot of that. We've been shown things, and then we'd second guess. Well, no, because they said this, or oh no, because they're doing this, or oh no, because this is how it's playing out. No. A lot of you are going to start being shown things even before they happen. And then you get to watch them happen, and you're just like, wow. You can connect with me through solar.info. You can join me on Substack. All that information is going to be in the description box below also. That would be dailyalchemy.substack.com. Please make sure that you finish the month out with me, because I do have an open house still continuing this month of June. And come July, unfortunately, the paywall will be going back up for many of my articles. So please avail yourself of those free resources. I hope to see some of you this weekend. And I thank you again for all your love and your support. If you'd like to donate to the channel and my continued growth, you can do so through my PayPal and my Ko-Fi. And that information will also be in the description box below. Thank you.